Do some of you remember that YouTube poll that I made about 2 months ago where I said that I'll be buying a translucent bezel and expansion cards from my Framework Laptop 13 and let you choose the color? Well, I definitely do, and if you haven't noticed, there's no such video on my channel about it. So did I just decide not to buy them or something? No! I actually tried to buy them many times and the experience has been horrible. It actually made me think about an issue that Framework really needs to fix, because if they don't, it could really undermine their mission. But before we dive into that, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate you subscribing, because it would really help me out. Other than that, also check out our Discord server and Patreon where I post weekly exclusive content. Thank you! So, like every problem in the world, there are two sides to the coin. In this case, there's the side of the Karen customer that just wants to get their product no matter what. That's me in this situation. And then there's the company which most likely isn't trying to do anything malicious and is just working with very limited resources they have and trying to make everyone happy. And in this video, I will actually talk about both of these sides, but at the end, it is important to explain that no matter what, it is still very important for Framework to fix this, because in a company-customer relationship, the company just matters much more, while the customer can just choose to go, somewhere else. So even though there are two sides, Framework really needs to fix this. So what am I talking about? Well, the translucent bezels and expansion cards were announced at the Framework 2nd Gen event, which took place in late February 2025. And even though I'm not very much into this visual customization side of Framework's upgrades, I really like these. So after my Framework Laptop 13 review, where I said that I found the expansion cards a little ugly, the way the light reflects from it, I think most of you guys have seen it, I decided to buy the new expansion cards, like the translucent ones, and I also decided to buy a new translucent bezel, because the one I have on my Framework is actually cracked a little on the left bottom corner, and this happened when the first time I was actually building my Framework Laptop 13, because I seated the display cable wrongly, and when I closed it, it like cracked, and I was actually scared that I will never open my laptop. That doesn't matter. I just decided to buy a new one. And to give this whole upgrade a little more community feel, I decided to let people vote on the color. So I let people choose between green and purple ultimately won. The community voted, I ordered the parts, they arrived, I installed them onto my Framework Laptop 13, made a video about it, and everyone was happy. Right? Right? Well, you see, after the poll, which was in late April, neither the bezel nor the expansion cards were in stock. And that's okay. So I entered my email to get a notification when these become available. A month goes by and I finally get the notification that the translucent bezel is finally in stock. So I go to the store, I put the thing into my shopping cart with the expansion cards as well, and when I try to order, I get this weird error message that says that some of the parts in my shopping cart can only be bought with a completely new system, meaning you have to buy a laptop if you want to buy the translucent bezel. My first reaction was like, what? Like, this small piece of plastic can only be bought if I buy it with a completely new system? Anyway, I gave up and they sold out in a couple of hours. So I waited a couple of more weeks until the bezel was again in stock, and I finally put it into my shopping cart again with the expansion cards again, and I finally made the purchase. No, I didn't. It didn't work again. Instead, I got a completely new error message that said that the things I have in my bag are actually in two different warehouses, meaning they cannot be shipped at once in one order. So yes, this means that I had to buy these two tiny plastic things separately, paying €12 each for the shipping, But yes, now I actually have them, so mission accomplished, but that was really painful. And I think it's really important to mention that this isn't just me. There are tons of posts on the framework subreddit from people that had the exact same experience, also with the translucent bezel. But like I said at the beginning, there are two sides to every coin. So how did this situation look from framework side? Well, let's just start by saying that the demand for the translucent bezels far exceeded framework's expectations. This is really like a nightmare scenario for any company because you got a bunch of customers literally like ready to pay for a product which probably has a really good profit margin compared to the framework's laptop, because this is really like a piece of plastic and it costs 45 euros. So it definitely has a solid profit margin, and you just don't have any of them and you cannot sell them because you just don't have them. And once you finally do get them, you probably want to prioritize the people that are buying the new Framework 13 with the AMD chips, because when you were on the stage announcing this new mainboard, you were also saying, you can now finally configure it with the translucent bezel and so on. So you really want the people who buy the new laptop, which costs more than $1,000, to get really what they wanted. But that's where this very confusing message came from. The one that said, if you want to buy a translucent bezel, you need to buy a system alongside. It was just terribly formulated. So no, it was never meant to be like that forever, but it kind of sounded that way. And before this specific message actually appeared, Framework didn't communicate this lack of stock and the high demand for this translucent bezel. So we just weren't informed about what's happening. As for the second message I got about the bag containing things that are from two different warehouses, this was also a problem with the bezel. You see, Framework has many warehouses. The main one is in Taiwan, where they built all of their laptops. And this means that this bezel was probably in stock in this Taiwanese warehouse, but not in the European one, where the expansion cards were. So yeah, that was the root of this problem. And now we get to my third point. All of the information that I just told you about the demand, shipping, and warehouses is information that I got from the Framework subreddit, where people were mad and official Framework employees were responding to them with this information. So I didn't get them from an official FAQ or an email, nothing like that. But why is this the case? Why can't Framework communicate this more clearly? Why, when they see that a thing that has very limited stock and high demand gets sold out in a couple of hours and people are confused with the error messages they're getting and they're writing mean posts on subreddit, isn't there a clear communication, a Framework post somewhere that would explain this? There's this saying which is really harsh on all of the businesses, and that is the customer is paying, so they're always right. And I totally get that logistics, especially for smaller companies, are extremely complex. But the market is very competitive and people have very high expectations because of that. I don't think that this specific issue is a huge deal. I just think that a company that focuses on repairability and upgradability and has sells every single part for their laptops separately really needs to be prepared for this kind of situation. People buying very specific combinations of whatever part you're selling. And I get this is very complex, but this is a part of their system that really needs to be sorted out in the future. But at the end of the day, we really like Framework and we want them to succeed. And I think I speak for most of you when I say that it's okay when stuff like this happens. But Framework, please be more transparent. Just communicate clearly before people have to write angry posts on Reddit out of frustration and misunderstanding. But what about you? Did you have any of these issues that I mentioned, or do you think this is a big deal? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your opinion. But that will be it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe, and also check out my Discord and Patreon in the description below. You know the deal. So yeah, thank you for watching and see you next week. Bye bye.